Hey, welcome back to another edition of Leading Radio. I'm your host, Dave Duenez. I'm with my co-host, Milcar. Hey, listen, we're going to be terminating the blog talk today. So if you want to join in the conversation, join us at the Leave in the Ring channel. And if you want to jump on and talk boxing with us, you can let us know. We'll send you a private link and you can jump on there. We're just going to get off of blog talk for a minute and work on the YouTube channel there. So this will be the end of the blog talk here, but we will be throwing up the audio for you guys can archive it here on the Leave in the Ring blog talk. Okay. But as right now, here we go. We're going to go directly to YouTube. See you guys there.
Yep. We're live right now on YouTube.
So what's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm happy to be back live on camera with my man David across the country. I'm here in the Bronx. You're in Northern California. It's nice to see you again. We've been doing it over the phone recently.
I know, man. I've been having to hold up the face expressions on my own and the reactions and on camera and stuff, man.
Right.
Well, we got a lot of stuff to talk about here on Leaving the Ring. You know, obviously we got a stacked Saturday night. It's starting to feel like boxing all over again. You know what I mean? That feeling of barbecue and cracking open some cold ones and sit there on a full Saturday and watch a bunch of fights, man. I'm excited. I'm really excited about the whole pay-per-view event from Showtime because it's bringing back those memories that we kind of lost since the COVID pandemic situation for the beginning of, the mid-year, March, starting in March of this year, right?
Yep, absolutely. And, we had some decent boxing this weekend, but I think next week's cards are really what we're really looking forward to. There's three, good matchups ahead of us that I know we're ready to talk about and that we're excited about, right, Dave?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm definitely, there's more than that, especially on the pay-per-view with the Charlo twins, this is their debut, right? To headline a big pay-per-view event like this. But the undercard is really good too. I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at that schedule there for Saturday, but even DAZN, even though that you check on their schedule, they really don't got anything. But to have the World Series finale back on there on the same day, which will be at 9 a.m., it's also something there to look forward to. Before we take that dive about the fights and even recap this past weekend Showtime and ESPN fights,
yep.
I want to talk a little bit about Canelo and DAZN and the lawsuit. We had Kurt from the Best Boston Esquire come on, and he's a lawyer, been a lawyer for 30 years in the boxing business, as well as managing fighters, and he's now venturing on to a new gig with Evan Rakowski in Ring City.
Mm-hmm.
He came on and it was really kind of early in the game to talk about the lawsuit, but as we saw, it's kind of been the Canelo team, his lawyer, which I kind of find it hard to believe here, Amilcar, that they didn't fill out the paperwork correctly. Okay, I had said this. Remember when I told Kurt, do you think this is a way to shake things up to let DAZN and Golden Boy know that Canelo team is a bit serious about what they want to do and move forward with? But not for them not filling it out. And they have until September 28th to get the right documents in. If this doesn't happen, what do we think of this then? Is it exactly what we thought? It's a, cry me a river type of deal in terms of like, instead of like stomping to my bedroom and slamming the door, this was Canelo's way of doing it?
Well, I think Canelo just really wants to get out of his contract. I don't know the kind of legal advice he's getting, what the legalities of it are, but it's not a good look when you don't even file basic paperwork correctly, right, Dave?
You would think, look, unless you're like this new guy that just got on the firm, right, and didn't know where to insert your first name and your last name and stuff, or not know who you're suing and what kind of an entity they are. I find that very hard to believe. You had to be a newbie, right? You had to be a rookie to do this. Did they have a lawyer to do this, or is this a paralegal? Even a paralegal knows better, So I kind of found it really kind of etchy, in my opinion. when I heard about that and I read about it, and that just kind of, for me, it was a red flag, or maybe just like I said, a warning sign that was thrown out there to DAZN and Golden Boy, that if they don't get their shit together, this is what's going to happen next. And as we saw, Oscar De La Hoya responded back to that, not filled out documents that were not sent out correctly, as in, hey, hopefully we can work this out before September 28th. So, and seeing that the WBC has postponed any bids for Canelo and the other guy he's supposed to fight for the vacant 168 title for now October 6th, that says a lot, in my opinion. And I think we might see Canelo back on DAZN sooner than we thought. And I think that relationship might be mended sooner than we thought. I don't think it's completely destroyed unless they don't get that situated. Then we see Canelo and his team move forward. But right now, the way I'm seeing it, I think they're going to get this thing done and over with, and they're going to give the kid what he wants.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. If he can get even a little bit of what he's owed left on the contract and then kind of becomes a free agent, I think it would be a good look for him. I think one of the bad things about being live, Dave, is that you get your cords and stuff caught on camera. Yeah. But
Nato Chicano Prophet, what's up, brothers? Thanks for joining us here on Leaving in the Ring. No, go ahead, Milcar. What are you saying, man? I'm just saying hi to the familia.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a good look for him, Dave.
No.
But if he can get even a bit of the money he's owed, it's valuable to him if maybe he can become a free agent. I just don't know if he's going to get $35 to $40 million a fight from anybody other than DAZN. What about you?
I don't think so either. I mean, they're not taking. I mean, if I heard that Canelo's willing to kind of shave off the top of what was originally guaranteed to him, but I think a new deal would probably go in because there's no live gate, that a new deal could be drawn up, an extension to that contract, saying that as the moment, because of the pandemic and no live gate, we're going to give you this X amount, but then we're going to have to, meet you maybe in 2003 when the live gates open back up, hopefully, right? And then they're going to have to play catch up on almost like an interest of owing Canelo for not giving him the full amount that was promised originally. That's the only way I see it happening. But how much of the guarantee that Canelo was offered is going to be shaved into a smaller amount? Maybe $5 million would probably be reasonable for Canelo and Canelo team, because I don't see them going any lower than that. I think they're going to stick to their guns and try to at least have as much money in their pocket, because of the fact, like you have mentioned, the Milcar, strong possibility it's an LLC. They can bankrupt and leave the United States and not worry about coming back here or worry about getting sued by Canelo Alvarez. But I don't think they would want to do that. It would leave a bad taste, But who knows, man? It's such a weird game in the boxing business, So many people I talk to in the boxing business, I swear, man, there's no hold bars in it. There's no, drawing the line in the sand when it comes to that type of business.
Yeah. We can only wait and see what happens. Who knows? I mean, I didn't expect him to lose the first round in the courts, so I honestly don't know what's going to happen next. I just think most fans are just really eager to see Canelo back in the ring.
Absolutely. Most fans paid for DAZN, to get into that DAZN app for Canelo, and the promise as well of a lot of other fighters that were going to be hosted on there. Andre Dermachenko, Gennady Golovkin, even AJ. Here's guys that were said that were going to be there on a regular, and it's just not Canelo that's not being hosted on the DAZN app, or network, whatever you want to call it. But all the rest of these other fighters, we're not seeing them. We're not seeing them, and partially because of the pandemic. But now that things seem to like slowly get back together, especially in the UK, they're like 6 months in advance on us in terms of getting shit together with the whole COVID-19. You would think they would start hosting more fights over there, or even offer Canelo to go fight down in the UK, where Taylor right now is going to be fighting at on Saturday on ESPN Plus. But nobody's thinking out of the box for some reason at the DAZN world. Nobody's thinking out the box. The only ones that are thinking out of the box is Showtime, Top Rank, and even PBC. I lost you, Milcar. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. I'm back. I know you're not the biggest NFL fan, and I'm not either. But I saw highlights. Were there fans at the Cowboys game yesterday?
No, I don't think so. No, there isn't any fans. If I remember, yeah, there's no fans.
NFL games. Okay, so
no, just cutout boards of like Outlaw, G-Funk, Nato, Nopal, Outlaw. They're out there. Just cutout boards of them sitting out there.
Is that really what they're doing?
Yeah,
that's what they were doing at the baseball games and
soccer, football.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't know that. That's what I was seeing. That actually makes sense.
Now I'm getting ready to pay another $100 tomorrow to re-up my DAZN subscription. Man, I'm not being suckered in until I see a full schedule on DAZN. I'll think about coming back. But instead, guess what? I'm going to do a via radio style with DAZN. Even with the Brivas and Dorquito's fight, I'm not going to end up watching it on the DAZN app just because I already canceled my subscription. Unless I still have it until the 26th. But if I don't, I'm not watching it. I'll catch it later.
Absolutely. And sorry, everyone, for the slight technical things I've had on my side. This is the first time I'm doing this. And
it's Milcar's first time producing.
Yeah, first time
in the ring.
We got some problems with the lighting. I was trying to have my wife to be help me with some stuff earlier on, and we're doing the best we can. But we're gonna get it right next week for sure. So what are we on to next, David?
Well, you know what? I did want to talk about this past Saturday fights, but man, there was such a snooze fest. I mean, the undercards were really good, especially on ESPN. Boots Enos looked phenomenal. He had a great uppercut that dropped his guy. But other than that, there's nothing much to really talk about. There's nothing much to rave about on Saturday. The only thing that you could really rave was back-to-back. There was a lot of fights. You were able to barbecue, which I did. I barbecued. I had some beers, and I sat there, and I interacted with fight fans on our social media, etc. But really nothing there to really kind of, that really stands out for the Saturday night, So I think we should roll on to the reviews of the fights that are coming up. What do you think?
Let me ask you something real quick before we move on. Who were you more impressed by, Lubin or Pedraza? Or I guess neither.
How about equal?
Equal? Yeah. I wasn't really impressed by either of them that much either.
I was disappointed on Lubin. Here, look, I'm gonna tell you why. Because some folks were saying he got guaranteed a world title, which is, he might have the chance of facing one of the Charlos if they win coming up on this Saturday or whatever for a title shot. But you don't want to lay nothing on the line. But how about lay something on the line that makes us want to see you get the winner of this Saturday night fight? How about solidifying that you're a real true threat in the division? How about entertaining the folks that did take time out of their Saturday to watch you on Showtime? Okay. How about that? Where's the honor in that? Right? I mean, you're a prize fighter. We get it. You're trying to, you're fighting for a prize, which is your money, and you're trying to have security for the next fight. But you got to leave a little something on the, out there for us to chew on, and I really didn't have much to chew on, I saw a lot of fight fans logging off, telling me that they were glad that they logged off, that they decided to go to the UFC fight, to watch the UFC fight, or to go to Netflix. That's pretty bad, man, if you want to Netflix and chill. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
By yourself, too. By yourself alone with a pillow and a blanket. That's bad.
No, absolutely. And before we actually do get to kind of next week's card in terms of this weekend, I do have one complaint And it's a continuous complaint I have with ESPN Plus. Why is it that when I stop or pause a fight and like leave the app, and when I go back into the app, like I have to spend 2 minutes trying to find the fight again? Not only do they not remember where I last watched the fight, but I also have to worry about just finding the fight in general, because what ended up happening last weekend for me is actually paused the ESPN card and then moved over to Showtime and then tried to get back to ESPN later. And it was a big mess. I honestly didn't think it was very good.
I didn't either. I think that's always been our complaint with these apps. I mean, they still have to get things situated. The thing is with ESPN Plus, you're not going to get it situated. I mean, they're not going to interface it again and revamp anything. They're going to keep the way it is because, look, the majority of people that are trafficking through are baseball fans, football fans, and basketball fans. I mean, the UFC has an icon for themselves solely for you to click. Boxing doesn't. We just got a little glove. That tells you how much they give a shit about boxing fans, And don't be surprised that, ESPN may not host boxing in the next 2 years. They might disappear. Showtime has been sitting back and watching this at afar, understanding that this is a tough business to be in. And they also understand that people trickle into the sport of boxing. How many promoters have been throughout boxing in the past 3 years? I mean, we've had guys with a lot of money, a lot of weight to come through boxing and say they were going to make a change. 50 Cent, Jay-Z, Dana White said he was going to come into boxing and change it. And none of them has ever accomplished that. DAZN came in with a $1 billion budget. And guess what? A $1 billion budget couldn't change the way things are worked and organized in boxing. That tells me nothing will. Boxing can't fix itself. It doesn't want to fix itself, So that's where we're at. The only thing we got to do as fight fans is enjoy the fights that are being made and the ones that are producing the fights for us. I know we bag on Top Rank, and I know we bag on PBC, we bag on Showtime, but guess what? They're kind of like the last three standing that are surviving, and they're producing stuff. Golden Boy is just trying to find a home. Hopefully they can find a home in Reading City. If you guys haven't had a chance to hear about that, that's actually a really good idea that Evan and Kurt came up with. So I hope that all works out for them and stuff. Once I get more details, I'll come back and let you guys know this and all that. But I say we start off with the ESPN plug in London here. Amilcar, what do you think?
You're talking about the Taylor fight?
Oh, I'm talking about the Taylor fight and that Kong Song fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Josh Taylor and the way he fights, and I have not really seen him in too many fights that weren't entertaining. And you're kind of like me in the sense that you appreciate high level boxing and skill. And
right.
Josh Taylor is able to transition well from offense to defense. He's got a really good jab, and he can fight inside as well as he can fight outside. He's very highly skilled. And while we don't know much about Kong Song, we do know that Thai fighters are generally very tough. So I'm looking forward to a really good fight. Remember Sor Rungvisai? Like, he came out of nowhere, and look at what he did with Chocolatito. So yeah. I don't know if we're going to see an upset like that, but I do think we're going to get a good rugged performance out of the Thai fighter, because he's undefeated as well.
He's undefeated. He has the same record. He just has one KO more than Taylor. Same height. They're both 5'10". The only thing is Taylor's a southpaw. Kong Song has got a good right hand, and he also knows how to throw a beautiful left uppercut. There's not a whole lot of tape, but like you mentioned a little earlier, Thailand fighters are known to be very rough, strong, come forward, and could take a good solid shot. So this is going to be something very interesting. We may not see the best of Taylor because if you look at them, they mirror each other in size, in height, and the confidence level is going to be there. So that Kong Song is going to come and show up. And the only thing I'm worried about for Kong Song is that, he's not the fastest guy. He's not very quick. He does tend to kind of try to stay in the pocket too long and wait for a receipt. and that would have the advantage for Josh Taylor to take, you know, because his hands are really quick, you know, and he puts the punches together really, really well. So I'm curious how Kang Sung's going to nullify that and kind of keep him at the end of his punches. Because if you notice with Kang Sung, what I've seen of him is that he does good when he has arm distance, you know, for him to kind of throw his punches to get there, you know. So how is he going to do against Taylor if he decides to come in with angles? I'm not quite sure. So, but I do expect this to probably go the distance. I'm not sure if Taylor can get the KO. Not saying he can't, but I'm not sure if he wants to find out how strong this Thailand fighter is.
Yeah. You know, if I was Taylor, as much as I'd like to put on you know, an exciting performance, and I'm sure he will excite at least the hardcore boxing fans, I do think he also has to box very cautiously, because he's got a big money fight in the horizon with Ramirez. And I know as boxing fans, that's really what we're looking forward to. So, you know, I do think he's going to put on a good performance, but, you know, I do think he's also going to box cautiously. And also what I know you're interested in too, Dave, is let's see how he gels with Ben Davidson as his trainer. This is the first time they've teamed up. And, you know, Davidson obviously is known for his work with Tyson Fury in those comeback fights. And then in the first fight with Deontay Wilder, which I guess was a comeback fight as well. But let's see how he does with someone very different than Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury is a huge, you know, massive heavyweight. Josh Taylor is also highly skilled like Fury, but he boxes differently than Fury. So I'd like to see kind of what he can do. I know his last coach was Shane McGuigan, and he kind of parted ways with Shane and Shane's father, who was kind of his manager / promoter out there in the UK. So it's also kind of a coming out party in the sense that Taylor signed with MTK Global, new management. He signed with Top Rank, new promoter, and he's got a brand new trainer in Ben Davidson. So I know there's that kind of aspect to it as well.
This could be the right opponent for Taylor and Davis because, you know, we don't know a whole lot about Kang Sung, you know, and being that he's only got a certain amount of fights underneath his belt, you know, it definitely is a big hurdle for the Thailand fighter and stuff. But also it could go against him because, you know, Kang Sung's not a small guy, you know, at 5'10". And he's a big guy, and he does use his jab a lot. You know, if you've had a chance to watch film, he likes to use his jab a lot. So, you know, that right hand, how he blinds his opponents with his jab, that right hand could cause a lot of problems for the southpaw Taylor. You know, so it could either work for Taylor, being that he's kind of a novice right now in the pro rankings, and Taylor, we know a lot about him being an Olympian, and he's been in, you know, I'm sorry, I'm thinking something. But I mean, he's been in there with Progress. You know, he's fought some high level fighters and stuff like Victor Postal. You know, that experience itself is going to work really well. But going in with a guy that has nothing to lose could work against them. It could be a much tougher fight for them than expected, especially having a new trainer like that. But then again, like I said, it may work for them because this may be the right opponent for them, you know, to see if some of the stuff, the new stuff they've been working on is going to work against a guy right now that doesn't have the experience that Taylor has. So in a lot of ways, this fight's really interesting, and I'm actually looking forward for this fight, which is going to be like early in the morning on ESPN.
Yeah, you know, I just thought of something based on what you said. It actually makes sense that he's, you know, I know this is a mandatory. I think it's a mandatory.
It is a mandatory. Yes,
it's mandatory, but it worked out well for him because he's fighting a rugged guy. So a first or second round knockout wouldn't really give him kind of the experience he needs with a new trainer. Whereas if it goes into the late rounds and he's got to, you know, make some adjustments and work with the things that he's obviously working on with Ben Davidson, I think that, you know, if the fight goes into the middle or later rounds, it's going to be beneficial to Josh Taylor.
Absolutely. Yep. I think so too. You know, like I said, my pick right now is going to be Josh Taylor taking it to the distance. I think that Josh Taylor is going to probably go out there and Give a couple fill out rounds. See exactly what is Kang Sung all about, and probably drag him to the later rounds and stuff with the championship rounds to see whether or not if he's championship caliber. I think between the 8th and 9th, we're going to find out everything we want to know about Kang Sung. Is he going to dig deep? Is he there for a paycheck? Is he going to be starstruck? There's so many things that's going to come and play with Kang Sung, because this is kind of like like 3 leaps into his career, So I'm really curious about that. He can rise to the occasion and stuff, but I kind of see Taylor just dragging him on, getting that work, getting those rounds in, and then if he sees that it's easy and that he's wearing down the Italian fighter, he may go for that kill. But as of right now, what I'm seeing is I think he's going to take the distance, and it's going to be a unanimous decision.
Yeah, I can see that as well. Like I said, I expect a rugged performance out of the Thai fighter Kang Sung.
Hey, don't forget to hit the like button and hit that that little bell so you're notified every time we're going to go live here on Leave the Ring. I wrote a bunch of stuff here of my list of what I wanted to talk about, and I can't find it. I don't know what the hell I did with it.
Well, so I know you wanted to talk about the Charlo doubleheader, so we can do that now.
We absolutely can, man. You want to start off with the main events, or do you want to start off with the undercards?
Why don't we
main events? What do you think about that?
Let's go main event. So Charlo Devrenchenko. I mean, this is going to be a good fight. I mean, my only problem with the card is that it's $75 and it's a pay-per-view. I honestly think that this, in an ideal world, they would have put this on Fox, just kind of how the Top Rank show, the big one next month, is going to be on ESPN. I'm talking about obviously
Lomachenko
and Lopez. That's nobody's having to buy pay-per-view for that. So in an ideal world, I would have wanted this to be, on Fox or on Showtime. I think either or, really. So I'm not happy about that, really. But I think Devrenchenko is going to be a tough customer. And this is actually, for me, a pick 'em fight. Like, I'm waiting until the end of the week to make my prediction on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Devrenchenko gave Triple G all he could handle and then some. He gave Daniel Jacobs all he could handle and then some. And you could make a case that he won both of those fights. I don't know if Jermall Charlo is better than those two fighters. I guess we'll see, because if he is better, he's going to let us know on Saturday. But, I think Devrenchenko, despite the fact that he's not that tall, can box effectively from the outside. He can get inside under you. He's got long amateur pedigree. He's got respectable punching power, and he's in shape. Like, he boxes for a full 12 rounds. So I think it's going to be a good fight.
I think it's going to be an excellent fight. Everything that you pointed out, I agree with you a lot. I mean, look, Devrenchenko is a tested guy. You talk to anybody in the East Coast that, even like Lou DiBella and them, they would tell you that this guy gives a hell when he goes in to spar to anybody. Danny Jacobs knew that. They knew each other very well before facing each other in the square ring in front of millions of people. So, Gennady Golovkin will tell you how tough he is. He almost had Gennady Golovkin out of there until the ref stepped in and kind of took that moment away from, Devrenchenko. What really kind of lies in this fight for me is the questions we've had about Charlo. This guy, Devrenchenko, may be the best name on his resume. This is the step that we want to see. We didn't go after Danny Jacobs. We didn't get a chance to see that happening. So Devrenchenko, to me, is the perfect guy to kind of debut his pay-per-view. Is the $75 going to be worthy to see Dermanchenko and Charlo? We're going to find out. We're either going to be happy with the end result or we're not going to be with it and stuff. Dermanchenko is a shorter guy, like you mentioned, but's got fast feet. He knows how to close that distance. Okay. And he also knows how to fight in the outside, like you just mentioned, Amilcar. But the one thing that I do like that he does is that when he closes that distance, he knows how to go to the body and then come back to the head. Okay. He's a rough, tough guy. He's a rough, tough guy. He's not afraid to get dirty, as well as Charlo. We don't know how much Charlo has to dig deep. He's always kind of looked like the more dominant guy in there. So this is going to be a very good test. How much of the Gennady Golovkin did it take out of Dermanchenko? I don't know, but we're going to find out when they step in the ring on Saturday on the 26th.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely are. And as much as I think this is going to be a good fight, I also think that the fight with Banana is going to be let's just say it's going to be bananas.
Jason Rosario.
Yeah, that guy, he converted me into a fan.
Oh yeah, I think he converted a lot of folks into a fan. Rum PMC. I'm gonna have to go with what do you got? What was it? A barbecue or original? I'm gonna go original. But going back with Jason Rosario, look, his coming out party is when he went out there and he beat the brakes out of Julian Williams, J-Rock. Okay. Yep. J-Rock might have came out with the wrong plan. It was originally supposed to face somebody else. It wasn't supposed to. He was supposed to face Hurt again, right?
Mm-hmm.
And didn't happen. So he ended up going in there and facing Rosario, who was a wild card, a guy that really a lot of folks that thought that J-Rock was going to box circles, manhandle him in a lot of ways because he had far more experience. It was because he had a far more known name, not experience, but far more name. But the one thing that Rosario brought to the table on that fight night was he was possessed. He wanted to make a statement. He wanted to show the world that he belonged in the same breath of the Charlos and everybody else that was running around in that division. And he showed us, and that's the one thing that I wanted to see from Erickson Lubian, and, was that, do you belong in the division? Where how Rosario did it, that was the statement. So I expect him, and I hope that he comes out possessed once again, because, you either love the Charlos or you hate them. There is no in between, okay? But you got to admit, those both guys, especially the 154
Jermell.
Jermell, he's angry, dude. He's even pissed that his brother gets more of the limelight. It's got underneath his skin. So
his brother didn't get beat by Tony Harrison.
Did exactly, So this is going to be who's got the bigger will in this fight. Right now, Jason Rosario is riding high off of that big win that he got off of J-Rock and having a title. Did it affect him? Did it get to his head? Did he train as hard? Is the hunger there equally the way it was on the night he beat J-Rock? Because I tell you what, that kid, Charlo, that line is super hungry to make his statement, because regardless of what they said prior in the beginning of their careers, both twins saying that, they would call each other like, well, my brother's better. No, he's better. Now he's really trying to say, no, my brother's not better than me. I'm the best. I want to prove I'm the best. So either Charlo comes out quick or Rosario does. Either one of them's got to do something, because equally, I think there's a lot of strength between both guys, and they both hit pretty hard here. So to me, this is a fight of who decides to be the lead dancer in the first bell.
Yeah. And I agree. I just see Banana as a possessed, unrelenting, tough as nails guy that's going to be in shape and is not going to stop throwing punches. And the thing with Banana that I noticed too, he's got a great chin in addition to being in shape. I mean, being in shape probably has a lot to do with it. So I know Charlo's somewhat known for his punching power.
And his chin.
Yeah, and his chin. So I just see a really good fight. Actually, both of these two fights, they're kind of co-main events. I think they're going to flip coins or do something to see which one actually ends up being the main event. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it. Look, I know that, like you said right now, the complaint is the $70 plus that and change that you're going to have to spend to watch this fight. But here's the thing with me is that you're actually getting a 250-50 fight with two in their prime fighters. Okay, both on both, all four fighters on each card are very questionable. Okay,
Yep.
they're all four fighters are hungry to make a statement. All four fighters are trying to make their place in history. Okay, to me, it's kind of worth it. And then you add on to the other guys that are on the undercard. I actually am not. I'm not one of them that are upset about paying the 70 something. I'm actually okay with it because I kind of see it's going to be fulfilled with all the fights there, and especially, like I said, a 50-50 fight, not just on one card, but two. Give it to me. I want it.
Yeah, and it's got even more solid fights as well. I mean, we've got Daniel Roman, although it doesn't say who he's going to be fighting. We've got
Right.
Brandon Figueroa against Damian Vasquez for Figueroa's title.
Yep.
We've got friend of the
But
show.
Figueroa, Brandon Figueroa, the only way he catches punches is with his face.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a solid chin. How long does it hold up? And he's never in a bad fight because of his style. He likes to walk through not just the fire, but he likes to walk through the bombs. I mean,
Absolutely.
the guy's face, you could call it Afghanistan. How many bombs he takes to the face? So that there alone is going to be a pretty good fight.
Yeah, seriously. Diego Magdaleno is going to be there too, a friend of the show. With Isaac Cruz. I see Diego Magdaleno doing well in that fight. And then obviously we've got Mario
Cruz is a
Barrio.
tough customer too. I don't know if you guys know that. He's a tough guy. It's not going to be an easy win for Diego Magdaleno. That's actually a really good fight there. It could be like a co-feature and an ESPN card.
I like every fight on this card.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a solid card, and yeah, I'm going to be paying it because at the end of the day, you're like me, Dave. We don't really go out all that much, so we save those pennies and pay for these pay-per-views.
I live for it, baby. If you guys want to join us here, you obviously can't call in onto the Block Talk because we wanted to make sure that we had this locked down and before we pull into the whole Block Talk thing. But
we can email you.
Yeah, we can email you. Yep, and then you can join us here on Leave It in the Ring. Don't forget to hit that like button and hit that notification bell so that you know when we go on live here on Leave It in the Ring. Don't forget to also on Thursdays on the archives, you get Hispanics Causing Panics.
You want to go over that? You want to go over that email, David?
Yes, sir.
It's leaveitinthering@gmail.com, right?
Yes.
All right, so people should be seeing it there, and yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Like David was saying, we have the capability of bringing you on into the stream, so it would be great to hear from some of you guys that are out there right now. All right. Yeah. So next up, David, is I know it's a fight that we've been looking forward. Feels like we've been looking forward to this fight for about maybe 2 years now. The Breides Torticos fight.
Yes, the Breides and Torticos. I mean, originally it was supposed to be at one spot. It originally had a date, but the COVID-19 knocked that out of the park. But now it's happening. Now I believe it's now down in Germany, right?
Yeah. And it's for obviously the World Boxing Super Series final at cruiserweight. Those of you who remember the first installment, Breides ended up losing in the semi-final against Gasayev, and that fight was honestly one of the most underrated fights of that year. It was a tremendous fight.
Yep.
So this is a second crack at the World Boxing Super Series. I don't know if we're going to see another World Boxing Super Series after this year, but this should be an excellent fight because Breides is also a very high level boxer, and Torticos actually doesn't fit the mold of like the stereotypical idea of what a Cuban boxer is and does. I mean, he gets in there and he bangs. He's not trying to you know fight pretty in there. He goes in and he goes to war.
He does. You know, I'm really, you know, here's the thing about Turquitos is that he's a guy that's so heavy-handed, you know, and he's going to come forward. He could box, but he always kind of like just, I mean, he believes in his power so much that he almost kind of forgets that he's Cuban. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, and decides to throw his hands and stuff. The Duenez is this guy that's about as rugged as you can get. You know, so I'm almost kind of seeing both of these guys back in again in a war. You know, I don't see this going the distance, man. I don't know about you, but I don't see this going the distance. You know, I think that Duenez can take Turquitos' power. I think he's gonna be able to take his punch. And I think that Turquitos is going to be able to take his pressure because they've been there. It's almost kind of like they've been there, they've done that, you know, in that sense. It's, to me, it's how much is left of them still in there to take such a very difficult, physical, hard fight. I'm wondering whose body's softened up a bit, and especially because of the layoff here, who's kind of slacked off in here, you know, who's going to have the endurance to go forward, you know. If somebody decides to work the body early, it could change the whole you know fight in a blink of an eye. So in a lot of ways, this could be a very short war, or it could be a drawn out war, which we've seen both of these guys go through and stuff. You know, so it's a very interesting fight. I mean, Saturday, man, alone, if you're not going to get the pay-per-view fights, Saturday alone with DAZN and ESPN Plus, you're going to be entertained. Just that it's early in the morning, and you're just going to see us tweeting in the evening about the Showtime pay-per-view fights here because you're not going to watch them.
Yeah, and the thing is, I know that the cruiserweight division really doesn't get a lot of play in the United States, or historically it hasn't. But honestly, it's always been a really good division, and it's like the modern day version of what the old school heavyweight division was, because these are guys that weigh in at 200 pounds. And on fight night, they're fighting at 215, 220 after they rehydrate. So they are like the heavyweights of, you know, the 70s and the 60s and times gone past. And I'll always remember when I was growing up, like one of the best fights I saw was like James Toney, Vasily Girov. I'm sure you remember that fight, David. That was just a tremendous fight. If I remember correctly, it was on ESPN as well. So it was like one of the best fights I saw on like the Friday Night Light series. Friday Night Fight, sorry. I'm pretty sure it was one of those fights. And yeah, it's one that kind of had a lasting impression on me. But the cruiserweight division is like that division between, you know, you get speed, you get power, you get kind of heavyweight boxing, but at kind of a faster pace than what we have become used to with a lot of the super heavyweights. Case in point, we didn't talk about this earlier, but the Ajagba fight, you know, like, let me ask you about that. What did you actually think about? I'll tell you what I thought when I was watching it. I remember when Ajagba and Daniel Dubois were like over here, you know, like neck in terms of how people were seeing them as prospects.
Yes.
And, you know, I looked at Ajagba's opponent and I was like, not how many rounds. It was literally, I'm thinking, how many seconds would this guy last against Daniel Dubois? And then I'm looking at F.A. Ajagba and I'm like, damn, how many rounds would he go? I mean, I honestly, at this stage, I see him getting absolutely obliterated by Daniel Dubois. What do you think?
If they fought tomorrow, yes, Dubois would definitely go through him, because I think what Ajagba is trying to do is find his inner Lennox Lewis, which is fight tall, learn the jab, learn how to control with long arms and the height. You know, did it look good? No, it didn't. I mean, I think a lot of folks did exactly what his opponent did, that walked into the ring and walked right out, you know, because a lot of folks were really disappointed off his performance. But I think that what Efe is trying to do is find a long-term style for him, or find who he is, because stiff competition is now kind of, leaving the house in terms of him facing and stuff, in weak oppositions, I mean, and he got rocked the last fight he was in. So I think that they understand that he's, because of being so tall and all that, that there's more tools to add to his arsenal. And I think that's just one of them, I didn't want to be too harsh on him because I am a fan of him. I still have hopes in him. But I think that once he goes back and looks at this performance, there's that old saying, don't fix something that isn't broken. He doesn't need to fix it, I think he was just trying too hard to be somebody he's not. Just like Jared Hurd. Remember Jared Hurd got a new trainer? Jabba did the same thing, got another trainer, and, they're trying to do something else with them that it's just not them.
He looked better with Ronnie Shields, I think.
A lot better with Ronnie Shields,
I mean, I don't know what the new guy's doing with him, but you brought up Lennox Lewis. Lennox was smooth. This guy is like super robotic, probably even more robotic than he was in the past. Do you remember the fight that Daniel Dubois had against the Ghanaian opponent, Richard LIITR? Like, I don't know if based on what I saw Saturday, if F.A. Ajagba would beat Richard LIITR. I mean, that was an exciting fight that he had with Dubois, and I'd actually like to see Richard LIITR again. I don't know what happened to him. I'm here looking at his record, and
he got Dubois.
Yeah, he got Dubois, right? Oh, he's set to fight Nathan Gorman in the BT Studios on October 10th. So that should be interesting. Nathan Gorman, obviously, being the guy that got KO'd pretty viciously by Daniel Dubois in what was expected to be a very competitive domestic showdown out there in England.
Yeah, Run just pointed it out, that Ephraim and Hurd have the same trainer now. So what does that say? All right. Boots Enos, man. I know a lot of folks are really calling him to step it up. They want to see him against Virgil Ortiz from Golden Boy. What do you think about that? Do you think that would ever happen? I don't think that would happen right away, but that is definitely a fight down the road in the future to see.
I think that would be the kind of fight that 10 years ago or 15 years ago we would have seen on like Boxing After Dark. That is a good kind of stepping up main event, where the winner gets to like, world championship contender status. I mean, Virgil Ortiz is pretty much already there, I guess, but I think that would be a really good fight between those two. At this point, I'd actually have to favor Virgil Ortiz. I just think his opponents have been better.
I think so too. I like Boots. I mean, I just think that with Boots, there's still things out there for him to prove. I think the ladder, he still needs to climb. I don't know why everybody's kind of in a rush to see Boots go out there and start just, fighting some of the top names, because some of those top names are still there and they're going to be busy with each other before Boots or even Ortiz enter that ring of robins that's happening right now. Now, is it a fight that could happen between Ortiz and Boots? Yes, because PBC and Golden Boy have worked together. They've done fights together and stuff. That's not a relationship that has ever dissolved. It might have had some bumps and roads in the beginning, which was about, 5-6 years ago. But now I think that can all be made. But I just don't see it happening at the moment. I think Ortiz team would be welcoming if Boots and them said they wanted him next, or maybe 2 or 3 fights down the line. I think they would be willing to do it. But I don't think it'd be a good mood for Boots. And I don't think Al Heyman is dumb enough to put in a potential star at the moment against Ortiz. I think that he's going to do exactly what he's been doing now, is keep it in-house and then allow Boots to get in there with whoever starts looking like they're aging and kind of ends up looking like a gatekeeper for Boots to get his hands on. That's what I see happening in about 2 years or so.
Yeah, I think that's about right. And, if you're his management, there really isn't a reason to really rush him.
Outlaw says PBC welterweights are going to duck him, both of them. I don't think they're going to duck him, Outlaw, because I think they're going to fight the more recognizable names. I mean, these guys are all looking for the money, you know. They're all running to the bank, and Ortiz and Boots right now have to prove that they're a force to be reckoned with. So that's why I still give it like another 2 years before they really start entering into that, you know, and that any of those other guys are start going to give them a chance, because what's going to happen is the next guy that loses, like let's say Danny Garcia loses against Errol Spence, which is Errol Spence is much is favorite. It's favorable heavy on the betting side against Danny Garcia. If he loses, then I see him going down and fighting somebody down the line that's lost as well. Okay, possibly getting Sean Porter if he doesn't get the winner that has been promised, right? Or he gets Mikey Garcia, which is the more recognizable name. But then I would see like Boots or even Ortiz getting him, which would be 2 years down the line. That's what I see happening and stuff, you know. I mean, that's kind of way the boxing model was always kind of like, you know, worked out and stuff. They never let the upcomer right away, you know, just unless he's – and I think boxing's learned this because of Fernando Vargas. I mean, think about Fernando Vargas, you know. Yeah. He was really rushed by main events, you know. They really listened to the fighter because he wanted all these big names, you know, and he wanted Tito Trinidad. You imagine if they would have said, no Tito right now, let's wait, let's get some more fights underneath your belt. Vargas might have been a little bit more down in his career, you know, better fights and better wins and stuff. But if you look at Fernando Vargas' career, he's kind of lost to every big major fighter and every big name in every big event he's lost. And that's kind of the reason is he was rushed. So I don't see the Ortiz or Boots being rushed.
Yeah. Outlaw's pointing out that he's with Duncan, Cameron Duncan. He's one of the best managers in the sport. And Nopal says Fernando was competitive in all his losses. He absolutely was.
He was. That's why we loved him.
Trinidad, and he was competitive with De La Hoya for a while too.
Yeah. I was
huge fan of El Feroz. Yeah.
You know, Ferocious showed so much talent. I remember when he came out, I was really high on the kid. He had so much talent. I mean, he looked beautiful, man, when he would box. You know, when he fought Yori Campos, Raul Marquez, you just saw the talent. When he fought Ike Corte, you saw the talent there, you know. But then he was just bum rushed, and then you know, and I think the Ike Corte was kind of the curse, you know what I mean? Because that's where like main events were like, wait a minute, this kid just beat Ike Corte, you know, maybe he could beat Tito Trinidad, you know, maybe he knows more than we do. And they allowed him to kind of run with that, you know. But you imagine if they would have said, no, let's pull back on him. Let's pull that pet bull back on us, Leach. He could have done far much more in his boxing career.
And had a much longer career.
A much longer career, you know what I mean? And drawn out, definitely more drawn out, you know. But I think it was short-lived because of the Tito Trinidad. After Tito, I mean, he was dropped by a guy named Flores who wasn't even known as a puncher. Remember that? You know, in his next fight, you know, so, you know, it just showed how wars like that can age a young guy. You know, it could just age him. It could add 10, 15 years on him, you know, and sometimes boxing has learned from that and moved on with it, you know. So that's why I don't see Boots or like Ortiz. I don't see them doing that. And rightfully, they shouldn't. They shouldn't do that. Allow them to progress. Canelo Alvarez is a guy that we all criticize. He had 40-plus fights underneath his belt. A lot of them was, of course, in Mexico. He didn't really burst into the scenes until 2012 here in the States, you know, but he had like 45-something underneath his belt. And then Golden Boy very slowly started building him up in the rankings and putting him in with recognizable names like Carlos Baldemir, Josecito Lopez, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of fight fans, including myself, were like, hey, let's see him in there with somebody else, you know, because he did have a strap around his waist and stuff. But look, they end up drawing him out, and now where's he at? One of the top fighters, right? And he actually looks phenomenal in his boxing style. Great counterpuncher. He actually looks very comfortable and his body. He doesn't look like a drawn out fighter the way he did against Floyd Mayweather. So I'm not one of those that are drumming to see a guy get rushed to the top. I like to see them, progress to the top.
Yeah. Speaking of guys on their way to progressing to the top, at least that's what the plan is. Did you see the debuts of Kasir Goldson and Jahai Tucker on the ESPN undercard?
Yes, I did.
What were your thoughts, David?
I mean, I not a whole lot, because there's not really much. You know what I mean? I don't know. I guess I'm one of those guys that have to wait till like maybe 10 fights. I mean, even in 10 fights, for me, it's really hard for me to make an assessment of what I really think about them. And it's just because I have such a high bar in fighters that it takes a long time. Like Lomachenko, everybody was on the Lomachenko train, and I wasn't. I didn't really didn't really start appreciating Lomachenko until he got dropped by Jorge Linares. When I saw that this guy was able to get up and have a mean streak and show that he was a fighter and not just this ballet boxer, that changed it for me, because it showed me that he could be versatile. And I kind of like that. The fighters that I followed and fell in love with, or like, Salvador Sanchez, Pernell Whitaker, guys like that showed me different faces of their career. Antonio Marco Barreras, guys like that show me who they are and stuff, So I always hold that bar a little bit high, even like Oscar De La Hoya, you know what I mean? I mean, he threw away the Trinidad fight on those last rounds by boxing, but we've seen him in wars, So I kind of hold that bar. And those are the guys, that's what I wait for before I jump on anything and say, I think this guy's going to be any good. I learned my lesson too with Bonchito Bojado.
I was just about to bring him up. I was literally just.
I learned my lesson, bro.
we're thinking the same thing here, because I was super excited by Francisco Bojado, Panchito. And then he just kind of fizzled away. Like, he was just killing guys with body shots and left hooks. It was beautiful boxing. And he was just like steamrolling the competition earlier on. I think with him, it was less about boxing skills and more about just dedication. But that's
in the streets,
what I like to see. Yeah.
Kid couldn't leave the streets. You know what they say, man. You could take the kid out of the ghetto, but not the ghetto out of the kid. And that's exactly what happened with them, But yeah, I mean, going back with these debuts, I'm excited. I'm excited because you know what? I thought that those kids did perform very well. They look good, but it's not enough yet for me to have an assessment of saying that they may be the new face in boxing. Because a lot of times, think about this. A lot of times the guy that we normally think is going to be the face turns out they're not. I mean, Cal Brook was supposed to be the pound-for-pound guy in the welterweight division. What happened? Never made it there.
Yeah, you're right.
Amir Khan, when he came over from the state over here to the States, gold medalist, fast hands, was supposed to do a whole lot and didn't reach that peak that we all expected.
Speaking of Cal Brook, it's in the news now that he's going to be facing off against Terrence Crawford. I mean, the search continues for a Terrence Crawford opponent. What are your thoughts on that potential matchup, David? I see you laughing already.
Oh man, come on, Bob. Just give in already. Shit. Give in already.
You know what's funny about that? The fight's supposed to take place at welterweight, right? But it was like 2 years ago where Eddie Hearn was saying how Kell Brook couldn't make welterweight, and he was like killing himself to make the weight class, and that's why he lost to Spence. It might have even been more than 2 years ago. So the idea that he's going to come back now and starve himself down to 147 and be competitive against Crawford, I mean, it just shows you like we're getting into desperation mode at this point with trying to find an opponent for Terrence.
I mean, look, I think he can definitely last 12. We know he could take a beating.
Yeah.
We know that he can absorb punishment. We know he can box, but his body's betrayed him already. His eye,
He
What
cashed
does
in
this?
on that Golovkin fight, and it
Yeah,
cost him his orbital bone.
yeah. I mean, what good does this do for Terrence Crawford? Nothing.
I think all it does is get him his minimum payday.
I mean, when Crawford fought Amir Khan, that was the same question that was asked. What good does a Amir Khan name be on your resume? Well, it's a recognizable name, right? This is a recognizable name, Dave. And having a recognizable name is going to get him out more in more households around the globe because Amir Khan's a global star. Okay, then we move from there.
And even
Where have
then,
you moved? It hasn't
even,
happened.
even then, he didn't finish off Khan like Canelo did.
No,
I mean,
no.
it was a questionable shot that ended the fight. If we're going to be honest,
You know, Crawford's kind of entering the Floyd Mayweather of avoiding guys, but without the Floyd Mayweather stature. Okay,
yeah.
You know, and I mean, at least with Floyd, it was because money. You know, he wanted all the money, and he actually worked to get to that position. You know, he was a phenomenon at featherweight, light, you know, junior welterweight. When then he moves to welterweight and stuff. He actually put in a lot of work before he got to that point. After fighting Jose Luis Castillo, he got to that point and was smart enough to understand that, you know what? I got to now be a matchmaker, not just a fighter. He understood the game better than anybody else at that time, okay? Crawford is allowing Bob to and himself, you know, allowing himself to kind of play himself out of his own legacy. You know, and when we talk about like Ponchito Bojado and Outlaw mentioned like a Frankie Gomez, you know, guys that didn't make it to what we thought, it became a disappointment. I hate to say it, Crawford is kind of entering that path. He's becoming a disappointment here. You know, fighting Kell Brook. What does that do for your career? What does it do for your legacy? Absolutely nada.
Yeah, it doesn't do much. To be fair, it doesn't do much. And
all those skills that you have, and you're actually even being said about from the media, okay, and Ring Magazine, whatever integrity they have left, which is not very much, being called the best welterweight in the world next to Errol Spence. And these Errol Spence is fighting guys that have more life in them than Kell Brook.
Are they calling him? I haven't checked the Ring ratings in so long. They're calling him the second best welterweight.
Oh, I'm pretty sure. I know one of the guys in the chat room will look that up, you know.
Wow. I mean,
you know? Everybody else's, every media outlet that I look at is it's Errol Spence or Crawford Errol Spence. And I'm like, how do you have Crawford in the top 3 right now?
He has yet to do anything in the welterweight division. And you know, it's funny. I mean, look, he fought Jeff Horn, right? That's who he won his title from.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he didn't dominate Jeff Horn the way Tim Tszyu did.
Nope, but that was in a different weight class.
Even so, Tim Tszyu's not in the pound for pound conversation for those who have that conversation.
Exactly.
Tim Tszyu's pretty much a prospect.
Like Nado said, Crawford turned down Porter because they were friends. Porter was down though. Porter was down. Porter was like, I want to get paid.
Yeah.
You know, not only do I want to get paid, I want to be on the legacy books. I want fight fans to remember me as one of the greats. You know, when 20 years, 30 years, 40 years from now, when people are talking about boxing, he wants to enter that conversation. We was like, yeah, man, Sean Porter is a great fighter. Or a young fighter coming up goes, you know, who's the guy that inspired you? Sean Porter did. That's what Sean Porter, is chasing. Crawford, what are you chasing? I know it's the bank. You're going to get paid, but how about put in the work to get paid? You know, Bob, this really has no fault in Bob. Bob is being a promoter, and he's being a smart promoter. And I've said this numerous times. He's using his resources. Hey, I can get Kell Brook and keep my fighter preserved and get him paid and keep him happy. Why not? If I was a promoter, that's exactly what I would do. Why would I want another promoter, a rival promoter, make money where I have to split the check? I wouldn't want to do that. Who does that? Right? But Crawford's the one that be thinking about his legacy, not just his bank account. You know, I mean, if belts are that important to fighters, think about that. Because a lot of people go like, we need to get rid of the belts. And fighters are like, no, we don't. I like having belts. I like having belts on my shelves, on my displays. Then you know what? Why isn't belts, championship belts, as important as your legacy being in the conversation as being a great? That should be up there too, in my opinion.
And I mean, I've raised this point in the past. I mean, he's a WBO champion. It wasn't very long ago when the WBO was like considered a fringe title, like barely above the IBO. So for those people that really care about belts, they know that of the 4 major sanctioning bodies, you know, the WBO is like pretty much lightly regarded. It was only recognized in Japan even just a few years ago.
Right.
Obviously, the WBA, which the WBO splintered away from, is pretty much a joke now with the amount of championships they have in every weight class. But yeah, you know, Lennox Lewis was undisputed champ. He didn't have to fight Herbie Hyde, the WBO champ at the time, for any kind of credibility at all. And that's just one example.
What's up, Chap Ross? How you doing, brother? Let's see. Nando said Porter recently said he's been guaranteed the Spence and Garcia winner. I know that. I said that. You know, where's that Lee Crawford again? Well, he's been. I mean, that's what I was saying. Is Porter's been guaranteed that, but I mean, we all know what guaranteed means in boxing. You know, if a higher bidder comes along, they're gonna go with that. You know what I'm saying? So it all depends. It all depends. You know, Porter to me has got a lot of options still. You know, he could still keep fighting, and then again, there. You know, and that's just the thing. Think about how Porter's been doing it. He's fighting fighter after fighter after fighter. He's closing every door.
Yeah,
he's driving in every avenue. That's what Crawford should be doing. You know, that's what Crawford should be doing. He should be fighting every fighter out there, pushing Bob to get him that fight, calling him. I mean, he's on the biggest platform, one of the biggest platforms, ESPN. He should be on there as many times as he can, saying, "Hey, I want to fight these guys. Let's figure something out." You know.
Nopal Boxeano says, I got more respect for Chocolatito than Crawford. Yeah, Nopal, I agree with that 100%. I mean, the problem for Chocolatito is that he was fighting in the lower weight classes, and people didn't see his fights with like Pollo Estrada and the other guys down in the lower divisions. But yeah, I mean, Chocolatito, up until he lost, and I was actually at the fight here in New York, against Sor Rungvisai, was considered amongst the elite, top elite, pound for pound. And that wasn't just overnight. That was built up over many, many years of fighting very tough opponents in like wars.
Yeah, he wasn't put on this pedestal. You know, he had a fight to get on there, you know. And that seems to, you know, isn't that kind of crazy in boxing? Have you ever kind of noticed that? You know, the guys that actually fight for that position don't get the respect that they should be getting. It's always the other guy that doesn't fight as often, won't fight the other guy, but gets paid more and gets more recognition.
You know, it's kind of this is a little bit similar, but a little bit different. The Cuban prospect, Robesi Ramirez. I mean, ESPN was kind of talking about him being boring and, you know, tactical and, you know, the Cuban style and all of this stuff you usually hear. I'm going to say this again. Look, it's okay to have that critique. That's fine. That's your opinion. What I don't like is the inconsistency, because for every time that they talk about a fighter like that with that style, they praise Andre Ward like 10 times. Right? And then, like, Andre Ward wasn't on the broadcast this week, but usually he'll be talking about and doing things I never even really saw him doing. You know, in terms of like, oh, you got to go for the KO and you got to know how to finish guys and this and that. I mean, yeah, he finished Kovalev, but I mean, if you ask people to like name spectacular Andre Ward knockouts, they're really not going to be able to give you a really long list of knockouts. Am I way off on this, Dave?
No, you're not. You're not. You know, yeah. I mean, I I know they gotta. I know that they gotta fill in the time with things. You know, I know that they do. You know, the only reason I'm not able to speak on it because a lot of times I don't even listen to them. I don't know. I've kind of, maybe it's because I've been married for so long. I have this superhuman ability to tune out things and listen to, and only listen to what I want to listen to. So like whenever Timothy Bradley, which I actually didn't think Timothy did a bad job this last Saturday.
No,
you know?
I actually think he's really good.
Yeah, and I think when Tim decides not to be firefighter Tim, he does great. You know, when he just starts talking about the fights and looking at the fight, he does phenomenal. I don't understand why they have Ward there if Tim could really kind of carry the show.
Seriously,
you know, it's kind of oversaturated.
He's way more entertaining. He doesn't come across as condescending and patronizing to the fans or to his fellow broadcasters. And you know, I watched an episode briefly of. I don't usually watch the whole episodes, but Teddy Atlas's podcast.
Oh wow,
The Fight. I forget. I think it's just called The Fight with Teddy Atlas.
Yeah.
They're essentially accusing Tim Bradley of like stealing material from Teddy Atlas and like how his whole commentating style and the words he uses are like plagiarized from Teddy Atlas. I don't see that. I just don't. I think Tim has his own unique style. Does he get excited at times? Yes, but I think that's like his legit personality. I don't see him as being fake. Like I'll tell you who I do see as being fake, unfortunately, is a lot of the fighters that I see doing the PBC telecast. Like they seem to be like being a version of themselves that's not really who they are. Like I don't really see that with Tim Bradley.
I do. And I'll tell you why I do.
Okay, school me on this one.
I've had Tim on the show.
Okay.
I've known Tim.
Yeah.
I knew him on a personal level.
Okay.
And then when he got with Teddy, he did kind of channel the spirit of Teddy.
So I'm way off on this.
And that's what I was talking about.
Teddy Atlas is actually right.
But here, let me tell you. That's why I added that Saturday. He seemed to kind of tone it down.
Yeah.
And, you know, with me, it's like when he, like I said, he didn't channel the firefighter, Tim Bradley.
Yeah.
You know, when he goes into a zone of watching a fight and breaking it down and calling out certain things, that's the Bradley that I like. I'm like, okay, that's the Bradley. But when he goes into the firefighter mode and he's like yelling and screaming and blah, 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 and he's like, I get it. He's trying to throw enthusiasm because he does have a dry personality off camera. But when he does that, though, it reminds me of when we had Timothy Bradley and Nate Campbell. Remember when they were going to fight? When they fought, we had them on both at the same time. And Tim Bradley at the time had a Metro cell phone, and you couldn't really hear him. And Nate Campbell has got a gifted gab, if we all remember. Nate Campbell's got a gifted gab.
I was a fan of Nate Campbell. He was in good fights, too.
Right. And Nate Campbell went in on his ass by telling him, bro, you got to get a better phone. You got to upgrade your phone. Like, drop the Metro already. And Tim had no response to that. So I kind of see where Tim's at. I mean, I know that's the Tim. That's the Tim that I know. This other firefighter Tim, it just doesn't seem real. It's just it kind of turns me off. But I think he does it to overrun Andre Ward, you know, because like I said, why do they have Andre Ward? If Tim can tone it down and beat Timothy Bradley, you know, the fighter, the analyst, Timothy Bradley is a fighter, he's phenomenal. When Ward starts talking,
he does a good job.
He does a phenomenal job. But then when Ward comes on, it's almost like you hear the same guy. You can't really tell the difference because they both could be coming in a monotone voice. They both use similar words, and they both have a very, you know, unique way of calling the fight. You know, I'm not unique, similar way of calling the fight. So I sometimes get confused. Like, wait a minute, who said that? Was that Tim that said that, or was that Ward? You know, so what I say is get them out. You know, get another different voice in there.
Well, they used to have Mark Kriegel, but then they moved him to like another role where he now does like, you know, pieces with background story about the guys that are fighting. I thought he did a decent job because usually the format is you got the blow by blow guy, you've got the journalist, and then you have the former fighter. ESPN seems to have gone with blow by blow guy,
right?
2 fighters. And then what usually happens, at least in this dynamic, is one fighter, namely Andre Ward, wants to show that he's way smarter than Tim Bradley and is constantly kind of trying to show him up and correct him and like counter all of his points. Oftentimes they're valid points, but yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. I honestly haven't seen this amount of arguing between commentators since George Foreman, Larry Merchant.
Yeah, and you imagine Larry Merchant wasn't a fighter, but so it made it more interesting, you know. Whereas Timothy Bradley and Ward, I mean, it's a conflict of who was a greater fighter, you know. And that's the sense that I get. Like Andre Ward to me is almost like telling Timothy Bradley, like, calm down, little guy. I retired undefeated. I was a gold medalist, you know, and that's, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying I don't like Ward. I like Ward as a commentator too, but I say, look, you got to pick one or the other, you know, ESPN, because you have almost a similar voice on there, and you can't really tell the difference. And if you're going to have that, why have them both? You know what I mean? I just don't get that, you know? And then here's another thing. Why do we have so many commentators? Why are there so many voices? Why can't there just be 2?
I agree. You don't really need that many.
You don't. To call out a 3-minute round, why do we need to hear from 4 or 5 different guys?
Yeah.
The official scorecard. Why do I need to hear his, him break it down? Just give us your official scorecard. That's it. In between the rounds, not during the fight. In between the rounds.
Well, in the case of ESPN, even when they do the scorecards, Andre Ward always comes in and gives us his scorecard anyway, so they could just go with that.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, let me ask you guys this, man. I know a lot of you guys. I think G-Funk is really looking forward to this because, you know, he's a big-time Chavez Jr. fan here. Are you looking forward to that? Why in the fuck is this guy still fighting? And why is anybody? I mean,
he's still fighting because he has a name and he can make a 6-figure payday off of that name. And, you know, you can live pretty well off of 6 figures in Mexico.
You sure can. Who's he fighting?
I don't even remember the dude's name. I never heard.
Anybody know? Does anybody even know who he's fighting?
I mean, I can look it up.
What is it? An open weight division that he's fighting?
Taking place at light heavyweight.
Wow.
Which is not really that he's best at. So it's just not really a serious fight. Let's see what
Champ Ross. Remember when Showtime used to show media row scorecards about 10 years ago? They don't even do that anymore. Yeah, I remember that. I remember they used to come around too and grab it. Yeah. Grab media rows scorecards and stuff, you know.
Mario Cazares. So that's his opponent. Taking place in Tijuana on September the 25th.
You know what would make it worth it to watch the Chavez Jr. fight? Is it did his ring walk in high heels. That would be worth it.
I mean, the guy he's facing is undefeated, 11-0, 5 KOs. I don't know what weight class he's been fighting in, but
featherweight probably.
Yeah,
they're jumping him.
I don't know anything about this guy.
Neither do I.
I mean, there's a.
Well, here's the thing. He's 11-0 undefeated. If he lands a big shot, is Chavez Jr. gonna bitch out like he did against Danny Jacobs? Did we see that happening? My nose broke. I couldn't breathe.
That was such a weird fight too, because
everything's weird when it comes to Junior now.
Okay, you can't really rate this guy's record. he won his pro debut against a guy that was 0-10. And then just 2 fights ago, he fought a guy that was 13-14. And the fight after that, he fought a guy that was 9-8. So totally discount what I said about him in being undefeated. That's not really a solid resume right there.
Totally discount Chavez Jr. fighting. Is he relevant? Would he be relevant if since Sergio Martinez is back in the scene, and a lot of people were actually excited and thought they did fairly well, which he did. He did fairly well in this fight. Would anybody be into Chavez Jr. versus Sergio Martinez on a rematch?
Nah, because Chavez Jr. was already big when they fought the first time, and now he's weighing in as a light heavyweight. If anything, if Oscar really, really wants to come back, maybe he could fight him.
Oh, Oscar. God.
I mean, the guy says he's running 8 miles a day and is in great shape. So
that actually wouldn't be bad. Him and Oscar?
Yeah, that could be
going
deep,
at it?
Right at 154.
But what's Chavez Jr. can't make 154?
No, not Chavez Jr.
Oh, you mean Sergio Martinez?
Sergio Martinez, yeah.
That actually, I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Yeah, honestly, I'd rather watch that than Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr.
How about a tournament of the legends? Guys that retired, but they're not that too far off in the retirement. Like, I would be into this. Now, hear me out before you guys jump down my throat. But since a lot of these dudes are trying to come out of retirement because now you're seeing Mike Tyson and Roy Jones do it, and how much of the attention that it's received from the media, I would be into a tournament of like Miguel Cotto, Sergio Martinez, Oscar De La Hoya. Who else? Who else could we throw in there in the mix? And a tournament at 154, 160, right? In between those,
maybe Shane Mosley.
Shane Mosley. There's number 4. Throw in 2 more guys. Come on, guys. Help me out. 2 more guys in that and a tournament. An exhibition. Now, that I actually would be into. I would be interested in seeing something like that. 8 rounds of boxing.
Yeah. I mean, look, if they wanted to fight, they can fight. I just don't want to see them against top guys,
Throw in Antonio Margarito, like run PMC.
As long as he doesn't have eye issues. Didn't he have eye issues, Margarito, or am I wrong on that?
No, he did, but I mean he just said his body betrayed him in his last fight.
I'm sure it did. Oh, you know what? Throw in Pedro Angulo.
He's not retired by now. He fights retired. I mean, the way he throws punches, he fights retired. Outlaw said Trinidad, Dave. You're right. Trinidad.
Yeah. Trinidad, yeah, why not?
G-Funk said Shane is punchy. Dude, they're all punchy at this point of their career. They're punchy, okay? Roy Jones thinking that he can knock out Mike Tyson is very punchy in the head. The senior circuit boxing, Champ Ross, that would be great. That'd be a great hitter. Mayorga. Hey, but Mayorga got locked up, I heard, right? You're mute, Amilcar. You're mute.
Sorry I hit the mute button. I was going to say Mayorga earlier, but I didn't think anyone would go for that. But he'd always be up for a fight.
Dude, he would make it. He would make the presses.
Seriously.
He would make the presses, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if the UFC ex-fighters can do some type of like old age fight like Tito and Trinidad. I mean, what was it? Chuck Liddell and Tito. Why couldn't these guys do that? If these guys are really looking to make some money, why couldn't the legends come out and say, hey, listen, we're going to do an exhibition? How many? Okay, look, how much is the fucking Roy Jones and Tyson fight going to be?
You mean pay-per-view cost?
Yeah. How much is that going to be?
I mean, I hope they don't price it over $50.
I think it's going to be like $50. That's still a little bit too much.
Yeah, I know it's way too much. I mean, it should be like $19.95, like the old Pinoy Power pay-per-views. You remember those?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I honestly think that fight
like that.
Yeah, and then the undercard is like Badu Jack, I mean, dude, is their career that bad that you got to be on that undercard and stuff? I mean, it's going to do well, but it's not going to do that well. But anyways, let's get away from that. If they're willing, $50, like I said, that to me is a bit much, okay, for Tyson and Roy Jones. But if you had 6 ex-world champions, legends, for $50, I would pay for that.
Actually, you know what? This is how I'd pay for it. If it was, you're saying a tournament in one night, like K1 style. You let them fight 4-round fights.
4-round fights, yes.
Winner faces winner, and then there's like a champion at the end. I'd go for that. Just do it all in one night.
Hey, look, yeah, Ron, you're right. Liddell and Ortiz was a golden boy MMA. That was their run in MMA. Yeah, you see what I mean? That would be, or they do like a 2 package thing, $50 for 2 nights of a tournament. It gives a guy, like do it one Friday night and then the following Friday night, but you already paid for the bundle, $50.
So they fight the first week and then they also fight the second week if they win.
Yeah, because you never know. One of them might break a hip or something like that. I mean, we're talking about some old bastards here,
Yeah, headgear, 16-ounce gloves.
Yeah. I would definitely throw in Juan Diaz, the baby bull, versus Paulie Big Mouth Malnaji.
You know what's crazy? All these names that are coming up are names that I've been thinking about today. I was literally thinking about Juan Diaz and Rocky Juarez just like 30 minutes ago.
Yeah. See, I would definitely be into something like that,
You know what's crazy?
You should have put us.
We would not be saying this shit if we had not just gone through months of COVID and not being able to watch fucking boxing.
You're right.
A year ago, I'd be like, Dave, are you fucking insane? But now I'm all for it.
I mean, yeah, because look, Mike Tyson and Roy Jones, they kind of opened that door. I actually saw some media fans, like literally, they're so excited about Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. And I'm like,
we're stars.
These guys fucking fell on their heads worse than Roy and Tyson.
Yeah.
So I mean, if I was the Zone, I mean, shit, it's not that far fetched. The Zone they were telling Canelo to fight his promoter, Oscar De La Hoya. They looked at that as a premier fight.
I mean, I'm pretty sure the Zone is hemorrhaging cash right now. So, I mean, they'd probably take anything they can get.
The tag name could be better late than ever. Like have Trinidad versus De La Hoya on the first roster. The rematch, or Trinidad versus Mosley because that fight never happened.
Trinidad versus Oscar 2, the 4-round fight with headgear.
Throw Fernando Vargas. Throw him back in there.
I was thinking him too because we mentioned him earlier in the show. Wow. Somebody's got to. You got a lot more clout than I do, David. You should pitch this.
I should pitch it to Evan for Ring City.
Yeah. Evan for Ring City.
If I did that, I don't think Evan will ever take my call ever again.
Maybe reach out to Steve Kim and have him speak to his bosses at ESPN.
Oh, that'd be the same thing. My number would be blocked permanently from Steve Kim if I was to bring that up.
Yeah.
Ricky Hatton. Who's another fat guy that if Ricky Hatton was in this tournament? Who could he fight? Oh, Fernando Vargas.
You know what I'd like to see? Ricky Hatton Costa Tszyu, the rematch. Let's get Costa his rematch. I bet you he beats him now.
I bet you he knocks out Hatton this time. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's what heavyweights that 90s we bring back.
You know what we need to see?
Huh?
Have you ever heard of chess boxing? Look it up. There's like fights where guys play chess one round and then box the next round. We could do Vladimir Vitaly Klitschko versus Lennox Lewis in a chess boxing match.
B-Hop versus David Haye. That was a fight that they were in talks. I remember having B-Hop on the show.
B-Hop and David Haye?
Yeah, remember? Do you remember when B Hop was campaigning? He wanted to fight David Hay, and
Dude,
we actually had him on. We had him on.
Because up until like literally just before his Achilles went in the first fight with Bellew, David Hay was like still had savage knockout power and speed and quickness. I mean, I think he would have destroyed. I like B Hop as a fighter, but look at what happened to him versus Joe Smith.
I know. But here's the thing, though, is that B Hop's body, though, hasn't portrayed him the way David Hay's body has portrayed him. You know, he stumped his. He never recovered from the toe. Never recovered.
Bro, have you stubbed before your toe before though? That shit's painful.
It is painful.
Stubbed my toe, my neighbor's spirit.
But it went from his toe to his ankle to his knee.
Yo, to be honest, he's a tough guy. He fought like what was it, almost 2 rounds on a torn Achilles. And that wasn't like a Gamboa torn Achilles. That was like a real torn Achilles.
No, it was. No, I mean, going back again with this legendary tournament, like I like some of the names these guys are throwing up there, you know. Ray Mercer versus Butterbean, Bo versus Lewis. Holy shit.
Actually,
why am I such against the Roy Jones and Mike Tyson fight? I'm liking this shit.
These are much better fights than Tyson Jones. I'm going to be honest with you.
They're more competitive.
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to see Larry Holmes and George Foreman.
Ooh. God, that would have been a phenomenal fight.
Right?
Yeah. That would have been a phenomenal fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, you know, going back again with Oscar De La Hoya flirting with Return to the Ring and Sergio Martinez absolutely doing it. You know, I mean, it is bringing some interest in the news and with even casual fans, because I know that I've had a couple casual fans when I'm walking at work and stuff. They're like, "Man, did you hear about Oscar? What do you think about that?" And I'm just like, you know, or they're talking about Mike Tyson and Roy Jones, and you know, Roy's fast though. You know, I don't think Mike's gonna be able to catch up to him.
Roy's fast.
Yeah,
Roy was
fast. He was fast.
They need to check out his fight against what's the guy's name? Dennis, the Russian fighter.
Yeah, the Russian guy starts with an L, right? It's a hard last name.
Yeah, I mean,
all right.
Lebedev.
We got to stop this silliness over here really quick. Get back to reality here on Leaving the Ring. Let's just really recap with our picks for this Saturday, upcoming Saturday on Showtime, ESPN Plus, and DAZN. Remember, don't forget the ESPN Plus and DAZN are at 9 a.m. in the morning. So get up bright and early, drink your coffee, be there, watch those fights. And then you got later on in the evening, the Showtime pay-per-view fight, the Charlo twins debut in a pay-per-view fight. And it got some great undercards on there as well.
That's 9 a.m. Pacific time, though, David. That's not 9 a.m. out here on the East Coast. So
that's right, Pacific time.
PM over here. Yeah.
Yes. I keep forgetting there's more to the world than just California. Yeah. Sorry, guys. I know that D-style that drives them nuts. Anything like, what about, you know? Anyways, okay. So going off to the zone here, who do you got here, Amilcar? Really, who's your pick?
That's a tough one because I haven't seen them fight in so long. But based on their last performances, I'm gonna have to go with Bradis.
Yeah, I was kind of leaning with him.
I'm leaning towards him, and I like the KO doctor, but I think I'm going with Bradis this time.
Well, the thing with the KO doctor, I mean, he does carry his power late too.
Oh, he does.
But if you get him in a tough fight, he can kind of like hold back. He doesn't fight like your typical Cuban fighter. Remember that, you know. So he does tend to kind of stay really reserved and conservative with his punches.
Mm-hmm.
Reese can outwork him. Break him down. I'm going to go with a late stoppage with Bradis.
Yeah, he also has a good chin, and if he can stay away from the power, I see him working the body and, potentially late stoppage. Because Dorticos is, we've seen, I mean, he gets vulnerable in the later rounds.
He does. He's dangerous. But I just don't expect him to come out fast. You know,
Yeah.
Doricos. I don't see him coming out fast. I mean, he hasn't been that kind of a guy. You know, even though we keep saying he doesn't fight like a Cuban, but he's strategic like a Cuban fighter.
Mm-hmm.
He does look for that punch. He does set up his punches. So Regis can actually close that and kind of take him out of a rhythm.
He's got a variety of punches too.
Yeah. That's the thing is that Regis is the guy that can take you out of a rhythm. So that's why I'm going to go with him. I'm leaning with him for a late KO. I'll pick between the 10th and 11th round that he gets the Ketos out of there.
All right.
And then coming up on ESPN. Wait a minute. So what yours was the same as mine, or you're going to go decision?
I'm gonna go. I'm not gonna go KO. I'm gonna go decision.
There you go. Decision. I got KO. Both going for Regis. Josh Taylor versus Kong Sung. Who do you like in that fight? I think we're both on the same page on that fight, right?
Yeah, I think we are too. I just don't know enough about him. I'm just literally going off of stereotypes of Thai fighters being tough, and I'm thinking
tape that I've seen on him, you know he's tough. Tape that I've seen on him, I know he's tough, you know, and he's big.
Yeah, he's as big as Taylor. So I'm actually gonna go like you. The tape I've seen of him, he is tough and he's big. I'm gonna go 12 rounds, Taylor.
12 rounds, Taylor. I think so too. I think actually it's going to be a little closer than we think. I think though that Taylor will probably take over on the 6th and 7th round, and I think he just sweeps those rounds. Takes the
other reason I say that too is because Ben Davidson is known to be like more of a cautious coach as tactically. In fact, that's the main reason Tyson Fury went to Sugar Hill, because he just didn't want to train for decisions. He wanted to train for knockouts. So that's kind of leaning into my analysis as well. In terms of the Charlo cards, David, we got Jermel and versus Banana. Who you got in that one?
God, that's such a 50-50 fight, man. Toss up. But you know what? I'm going to go with Rosario, man.
Ooh, you took it from me, man.
I like Rosario in this fight.
Yeah, so do I. I like him. I'm a big fan of his. And in 50-50 fights, I always go with the person I kind of want to win. So yeah, I'm the same.
It reminds me of it. You know what this reminds me of? Now, Edison Miranda is no Charlo. Charlo is a much more polished fighter than Edison Miranda. But the focus was how Edison Miranda was just going to be the next star, and Kelly Pavlik, nobody took notice. You know what I mean? Like, he was just this guy. We knew that he was big, he was strong, but nobody really cared about him. And all the press was about Miranda. I kind of see that happening here. Charlo, they made a small documentary on him, et cetera, and kind of left Rosario outside. But he holds a title. You know, I think the hunger is still there. I think he got the recognition with the title, but not the recognition from the fans in the world yet. I think he's hungry for that. So, and seeing the temperament of Charlo, I think he's going to make it an accessible fight for the Banana to land these big, heavy shots he likes to throw.
That's kind of what I'm seeing. Charlo likes to go to war. Like, he'll start out boxing, but if you hurt him, he's going to start fighting you. And I think that's exactly what Banana is going to want to do. And I mean, he's got one word on his mind: offense, when he's fighting. And I just like the will and the desire, and he does have skills as well. So, he does. And you know what?
The jab.
Yeah, he does. I'm going to double down on my upsets. I'm going to also call Deverenchenko. In fact, if Deverenchenko loses, I'm going to say it's a controversial loss. Now that I'm riding the upset train, I might as well ride it all the way and call Deverenchenko as well.
Don't sleep on Damian Sugar Vasquez, Run says, in G-Funk Boxing. Charlo loads up too much and leaves himself open. You're going to go with Deverenchenko. I like Deverenchenko. I just don't know how many miles he has in the engine. I like Charlo. I think he fights far better on the outside, and I think he sets up his punches better than his 154-pound brother. I'm going to go with Charlo. I think he wins by decision. I think it's going to be a tough win, but I think in those later rounds, it's going to pay off, and I think his height and his length of arms, it's going to pay off for him. So you got Domachenko. I got Charlo by decision on the 12th round.
Yep. I mean, my brain tells me Charlo, obviously, but
right.
I think it'll be more. I'll have a little bit more fun watching the fights if I got a couple upsets riding on this, especially if I'm paying $70 whatever dollars to let's just call it $80 for the pay-per-view.
Well, there you go, folks. Those are our picks here on Leave It in the Ring. Join us on social media. We'll be up and early. I'll be up and early to watch the fights. So join me on social media. Don't forget, every Monday night, we're here at 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be back on Blog Talk. We just wanted to test out this stream with the Milk Car and on YouTube here. So again, don't forget to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and hit that little notification bell so you know that we're on live. All right, guys. Again, have a great weekend. Don't drink and drive. You will spill your beer.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Thank you, everyone, for participating.